I'm Paranormal Pete, and I'm on a journey to seek answers to the questions that have crossed all of our minds. What happens to us when we die? Is there an afterlife? I'm a regular guy who discovered the gift of psychic mediumship in my 30s. My passion for history and the unknown have put me right here, right now. My mantra for anything paranormal is, we don't know much and anything is possible. Join me as we find our way through the stories, evidence, and experiences of the paranormal and beyond in search of answers, even if that leads to more questions. Are you with me? Welcome, everybody, to the Paranormal Pete Show. This is episode 53. I'm your host, Peter Abea, and we're on WLTK-DB.com. Be sure to go to the website, check out all the shows. And by the way, there's some new shows that have been debuting and coming out. There's some true crime shows. There's a lot of great stuff coming out. So be sure to go to the website, WLTK-DB.com, right behind me there. Check out the website. You can also check us out on all the socials under WLTK-DB. So, and I hope you're following my show page, Facebook.com/Paranormal Pete Show. Pretty easy to find. And for those already following, thank you so much. It's very humbling and just glad to be here for episode 53. We've got special guest Ross Allison tonight. We may have another special guest coming on as well, but we've got Ross Allison from A.G.H.O.S.T over in Seattle, and we're going to be talking about his new documentary coming out called Parasense: The Naked Experiments. And you heard that right. And so we're excited to talk to him about that. And but we've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got the Oregon Ghost Conference coming up. I'm very excited to be there for that. I think I'm going to be hosting a panel, and also I'll have a booth there. So stop by and say hello. You want to go to OregonGhostConference.com, and it's March 25th through 27th at the Seaside Convention Center. So make it a trip with the family. Come on down and learn a lot about the paranormal and beyond that as well. Take some classes. You can do some tours. It's a lot of fun. So come on down to the conference. And again, that's OregonGhostConference.com. Check it out. And they've got a Facebook page as well. That's coming up. I've got a couple of ghost walks coming up. And I've got one this weekend, February 19th, I think it is, and March 19th as well. And then I've got my last one for the season, April 9th, coming up. And that's a 3-hour tour through historic Port Gamble here in Washington. So if you're in the I-5 corridor area, check it out. You can go to PortGambleParanormal.com and get tickets and see the dates. And I've got a couple of special investigations coming up. Those are a lot of fun. It's 3 hours in the, I guess you could say, notorious Walker Ames house. And it's a chance to come in and do a little bit of investigating, learn a little bit about some of the basic tools that are used for paranormal research and kind of how to use them and what to use them for. So it's a lot of fun. My last one, we had somebody's hair actually got lifted out and pulled. And I happened to witness that. That was really cool. First time I'd ever seen that happen. And so you never quite know what's going to happen on those investigations. So again, that's all at PortGambleParanormal.com for dates and tickets. And there's more links to this show from there too. So quick shout out to Linda Myers. Hey, thanks for watching. Good friend of the show. Also want to give a special shout out to Todd Bates, host of Haunted Voices. And he's the guy behind the dials, making it all happen. So thank you, Todd. And shout out to my producer, Michael Beers, as well. Anyways, we got a lot of great shows coming up for you over the next couple months. We've got, of course, Ross Allison tonight. I'm super excited about that. Next Tuesday, we've got host of the Paranormal Brew podcast, Taryn Kerper, coming on. Next show after that's going to be Michelle Freed. And then the show after that, I've got the team Unearthing the Supernatural. It's a group of Native Americans who do paranormal research, and they really mix in the old traditional ways of dealing with spirits. So I'm very excited to talk to them about that. And of course, the week after that, well, we're getting closer to the Oregon Ghost Conference. So I've got conference director Rocky Smith coming on March 15th to talk about all things Oregon Ghost Conference, what's coming up, what you can expect. We'll have some fun. He and I usually just laugh the whole time, so it'll be a lot of fun. And then the week after that, I've got historian and paranormal researcher Jeff Davis coming on as well. And there'll be many more guests I'll be announcing over the next few weeks as well. So I've got a great lineup of guests. I feel so lucky to have such great people coming on the show. It really um, keeps me excited about doing this and learning, and I'm always trying to learn. And hi Mike, thanks for saying hello. And my sister Melissa, she's the one who coined Paranormal Pete. So thanks for watching, miss ya. So we've got a lot to go over tonight, so without further ado, I'd like to bring on our special guest, Mr. Ross Allison, who uh, founded A.G.H.O.S.T, and that is a team from Seattle, and they do research and investigations. They take a very pragmatic approach to investigating, which is kind of more few and far between, I think, these days. So he's very just a wealth of knowledge. He's had so many years of experience. He's written, I don't know, 500 books. I don't know, probably not that many, but he's written so many books about haunted lighthouses, prisons, all kinds of things, location-based books. So you definitely want to go to A Ghost to check it out. And tonight, we are going to be talking about his new documentary, Parasense, The Naked Experiments. And guess what, guys? He's going to be debuting that at the Oregon Ghost Conference at the Times Theater Friday night, March 25th at 10:30. So if you're going to the conference, go to OregonGhostConference.com and get your tickets. That's probably well, the tickets are going to go fast. I know that. So definitely check it out. But very excited it's going to be debuting. And so, hey, Todd, can you bring Ross in for me, please? There he is, Mr. Ross Allison.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy guy, and thanks for taking the time.
Well, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and Ross has been a guest on the show before, and good friend of the show. So it's glad to have you back. Um, what have you been up to other than putting this documentary? Before we get into that, what have you really been up to?
Well, besides surviving, as we all are with the COVID, just slowly getting back into things. Doing tours. Spooked in Seattle's um, continuing to do tours, and we had a while back. There was a really awesome TikTok video put out, and it like did over 200,000 hits and shares. It was amazing.
Whoa,
And yeah, it was huge, and it's still going. And ever since that appeared on the Death Museum for the Death Museum, um, tons of requests for Death Museum tours. So that's been keeping me
cool.
busy. Yeah, working on always working on books. I got a couple books that I'm working on. One with David Weatherly and one with Chad Goodwin. So yeah, the one with David Weatherly, we're doing haunted historic. Not we just had haunted historic hotels come out, and now we're doing haunted amusement parks. So that's the
Oh,
next one to come
ooh,
out. And then
oh
with
man,
Chad, I'm working on our science book, Paranormal Science. So yeah,
cool. What can people expect from the paranormal science book? What are you guys focusing on?
we're focusing on our research that we did for Parasense. A lot of the things that we've discovered, especially when it comes to modern day equipment that people use for ghost hunting,
Okay,
the do's and don'ts, and why a lot of this stuff doesn't work. So we got that coming out.
cool.
Yeah, and then just how to conduct a more controlled experiments.
Nice.
You know,
And for the audience out there, can you please confirm if there is or isn't a meter that detects ghosts?
there is not. I wish there was. I really do. It would make our
Right?
jobs a hell of a lot more fun and easier.
Wouldn't it?
There's no app, there's no device that's going to tell you you have a ghost. It sucks, but maybe in the near future, we're making discoveries. We really are, and I'm really excited. Especially with the documentary coming out, to share what we've learned.
Yeah.
Doing what we've done so far, and I think that's going to be a big turn in this field.
Wow. So, can you just share, like, what's one thing, without spoiling anything, what's one thing that you've kind of discovered and had a light bulb go off, like, "Whoa, okay," and had you kinda shift your thinking? Is there anything you can point to?
Um, well, with our Spectre system, now I had actually put together a Spectre system over 20 years ago, and it was still pretty limited. And what happened is when I met with Chad, who was a scientist and inventor, he loved the system that I had put together, but he felt he could do better. And so he helped us upgrade it to Spectre 2.0, and it's done phenomenal things. And so
Nice.
one of the things that we have learned is that a lot of the ghost hunting equipment that people are using is not sensitive enough. It's not fast enough to pick up a
Okay.
lot of the phenomena that we're hoping that we're encountering. So that's one of the biggest things that we've learned. And
That's
it's,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because you can buy different kinds of meters and, one's made for specific, an electrical tradesman or, but yeah, I've always kind of wondered, well, really, how sensitive is this?
Well, that's the thing is a lot of these devices that we use for ghost hunting is not made for ghost hunting. They were made for their sole purpose, to detect EMF. Basically when cell phones came out, they
Hmm.
wanted to know how much EMF was going into our brains when we were talking on the cell phones. So that's one of the main things EMF was initially started out for. And then it got, used for other things. But again, it was never intended for ghost hunting. And so we started to find that a lot of the devices that we use for basic ghost hunting that a lot of groups are dependent on is not working properly for us.
Hmm.
And so, there is more sensitive and faster devices, but you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Right.
And I know a lot of those groups can't afford that. So it's one of those things that if you're really going to take this serious, you really have to put more money into dependable equipment and not suggestive equipment, because I
Sure.
see people save up hundreds and hundreds of dollars for devices that aren't really going to prove scientifically that you're dealing with something paranormal.
Hmm.
So
What?
that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, real quick, then, what's for everybody listening out there and watching, what's the best bang for the buck that you would suggest somebody get other than a notebook?
Well, I've always said that the biggest part of investigating the paranormal is visual and audio.
Hmm.
Those are the two main things that are going to help us to have a recollection of what we're experiencing.
Hmm.
So I've always said, get the best video camera that you can get. 4K if you can get that. I know there's up to 8K, but really there's nothing really plays 8K
Right.
right now unless you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on TVs and stuff like that. But get a high-end camera, get a high-end audio recorder as well, because what's always frustrating is when people are submitting really bad evidence because the photos are really dark and grainy, and
Hmm.
they say, oh yeah, I can't, you see that ghost back there? No, I can't see it, but they believe it's there. Or when the audio quality is really bad,
Yeah.
and you can't really hear what they're claiming to hear. So that makes it, and I know it makes it frustrating for the investigator as well. When you believe you have something there,
Right.
you're trying to get the public to hear and see what you're hearing and seeing.
Yeah.
And I really feel that people need to focus on better audio and video equipment.
Right.
Number one, you know. Then if you're going to be more scientific about your research, then you're going to have to get some more equipment that's going to help you to read the environment, to look for those readings that we can't explain.
Yeah.
That's the next big step. That's if you're trying to be scientific. If you're just going to try focus on the metaphysical element of it, or the woo woos, as a lot of people put it, or just for the thrill of ghost hunting, yeah, you can download crappy apps and you can use crappy equipment and have a heyday at it. Really, you could.
Right.
But I'm in the sole purpose to try and come up with really concrete evidence that there's something out there, that we are experiencing some interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, you have to give your mom a shout out. She commented and said hello.
I saw that. Hi, Mom.
Look at me.
Yeah. Well, you got your sister. I got my mom now, I
There
guess.
you go. Yeah, exactly. Hey, and real quick, Jason Taylor, thanks for listening. He's asking, how about IR lights?
IR lights are great, especially for seeing things in the dark. We can, pick up some interesting phenomena with IR. I'm not totally sold on full spectrum because no one's done enough research to validate, are we picking up things in full spectrum that we weren't picking up in just normal IR?
Okay.
That's the thing, is there's got to be more experiments where you're having both those cameras at the same time, because people are thinking, oh, I got it on full spectrum. Yeah, but could you have just gotten it on IR? That's one of the biggest arguments out there, and I think there should be some more research into that, on whether you need to spend that extra money when you don't.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it goes across the board, just more research on all of the equipment. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you guys have been kind of working on that.
Mm-hmm.
Got another question from Michael Beers. He says, Ross, I turn on at least one audio recorder before arriving at an investigation and let it roll until I get home. Do you
Mm-hmm.
start recording before you arrive?
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely suggest, you're right, when you're in your car getting ready to go in. Yeah, that's a great idea. Because you never know if something's going to be there to greet you. you know
Right.
and that has happened where we've gone into places, just before you walk in you get this EVP of some sort of greeting, and then or even when you're leaving, something saying goodbye.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very possible.
Yeah, I went into the Port Gamble Museum last week, and I just did what I normally do. Hello, when I went in, and I swear a man said hello back to me.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. Well, and Jason's got one more question, and I know what your answer is going to be. How about ITC equipment? Anything good there?
It's a really challenging thing, because I know a lot of people are really into ghost boxes. It seems to be their main focus on a lot of investigations. And the biggest problem is let me go back here real quick before I critique it too much here, because RVP, radio voice phenomena, dates back, to the 60s and 70s, where people believed that spirits were communicating with through dead signals on radios. So that is a phenomena that goes back in history. Now, they weren't cycling through stations. That was not how it worked. It was just a voice appearing on a radio, on the car radio, that wasn't on a station. Things like that were reported back in the day.
Right.
So it was never something that you were cycling through all these different sounds and music and voices. And that's where I feel our problem is, because psychologically, you can hear what you want to hear, and when you get random noise coming at you, that tends to be the biggest problem. Now, I'm not saying that the phenomena can't occur, because it has been reported in the past, but I think if you're going to try and be have something that's more credible, I would be more open to people scanning through white noise, just static, and get rid of the radio stations, because that's where you're going to have the biggest problem, where anybody in the scientific field is just going to roll their eyes at you.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to really try and validate your communication with the spirit world by using a ghost box or something similar to that phenomena, or that research, I should say, um, what you're going to need to prove it is you have to record every radio station at that time. Then, when you capture your communication that you believe you have, that time, you have to go through every radio station to see if that might have been what you captured. You
Right.
get what I'm saying?
That's a very intense.
That is correct. That would be very time consuming, but
Yeah.
that would be the only way that you would be able to prove to somebody, you know, that's a skeptic or scientifically, that you did communicate with spirits, because there's far too much contamination going on when you're dealing with the cycling
Sure.
of going through all those different sounds and voices.
Right.
And that is the biggest problem we have, is because now so many people are dependent on those devices. I've seen groups that, though, that's all they do during an investigation. They'll just, whip out the ghost box and wait for something to happen. If it doesn't happen, they're done.
Yeah.
Or they use the ghost box to claim to have solved the mystery of the haunting. You know,
Sure.
you know, we
Takes a
don't need
lot more than that.
we don't need Scooby Doo. Hey, we got a ghost box. We're good. It's just it's a problem because it's become too dependent. People are too dependent on it, and it's too suggestive.
Sure.
Because there is a lot of random noise and sounds that can come to us, and we try to make sense of it.
Right.
But the biggest problem then, and my biggest argument is, I hear people asking questions, and what they do is they wait until they think they hear the answer.
Okay.
But
Yep.
who's to say that randomness that just came through right after you asked that question, maybe that was the answer? But you didn't understand anything or get anything from it, so you moved on and you waited.
Right. Yeah.
And
Great
and
point. Yeah. Yeah. And would salute anybody that would go through the pain of recording every radio station.
but and that's again the only way you'd be able to
Yeah.
prove your point. If
Yeah.
you're saying you're communicating with a ghost, and you're going through all those different radio stations,
Hmm.
you're going to have to play all those radio stations at that exact moment that you captured the ghost speaking, just to prove that it wasn't any of these radio stations.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And that's where people don't want to do the work.
Yeah. Well, it's all great points, and I think it's interesting and entertaining, and I'm trying to get more interested into just like a static station, nothing on it, and just sit on that one and see if you can get direct voice phenomena from that.
And
I
that's
kind of
where
want to dive more into that.
and that's where I'd be a little more open to it,
Right.
because like I said, that's the root of the phenomena. It was just coming through static.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming through any other circling through or cycling through any radio stations.
Yeah.
So like I said, the phenomena has been reported. It goes back to in our history. I just don't feel that it's being done correctly or in a way that proves anything, unfortunately.
Sure. Sure.
It makes it more complicated, and anybody who's not going to believe what we do as paranormal investigators, and you try to submit that as evidence, it's just going to make them laugh harder at us. you know
Right. Which
I'm
is not the
sorry.
goal. Which is
No.
not the goal. Right, right. Well, hey, we've gotta jump to a station break. We got a couple comments to get to when we come back, and we're gonna special treat for everybody. We are going to be playing when we come back, get through some comments. We're gonna start talking about Ross's new documentary with Chad Goodwin, Parasense: The Naked Experiments, and we've got a trailer for the documentary. And so we're going to play that for everybody. But we're here on Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbe, with special guest Ross Allison on WLTK-DB. We'll be right back. Thanks for watching.
Meet Nicole Strickland, one of the leading San Diego paranormal researchers. Nicole offers a gentle and humble approach to working with spirit energies. Being the founder of the San Diego Paranormal Research Society, Nicole is no stranger to the unknown. Due to Nicole's vast knowledge of the paranormal, she is widely sought after for speaking engagements on topics like Children of the Paranormal, Paranormal Investigation 101 and 102, History of Spiritualism, and more. Not only does Nicole research the afterlife, but also writes about it, and is the author of several books pertaining to the paranormal and its history. She has appeared on television shows like My Ghost Story, Travel Channel's Famously Afraid, Good Morning San Diego, and more. Have a conference or event coming up? Contact Nicole on her website, authornicolestrickland.com. That's authornicolestrickland.com. Looking to launch your new masterpiece? Then try something new with Moonbow Publishing and Production. At Moonbow, we have a strong desire to serve authors in a powerful and meaningful way. After all, you poured your heart and soul into your writing, and we fully understand and respect that. Remember this: you will own the copyright to your work. You will have the final say on your work before being published. Even after all of that, we've saved the best for last. We won't take a percentage sold. Nope, not a penny. Excited about MoonbowPublications.com yet? We thought so. Take advantage of our company's services like book editing, formatting, and covers, publishing, and photography. Moonbow Publishing and Productions has everything you are looking for in a company. Remember, we will not keep any commissions. We are a boutique publishing company focusing on spiritual, health and wellness, and personal growth genres. Moonbow Publications and Productions, a new kind of publishing company.
All right, we're back here on the Paranormal Pete Show, episode 53, with special guest Ross Allison. A couple of quick shout outs. Hi, Tim. Thanks for watching. And Wendy Schindler as well. She says hi to both of us.
Hey.
And she also had a comment. We were talking about the radio voice phenomena. She asked, does it go back as far as Nikola Tesla with the crystal powered spirit radio?
There were some, and this is the thing, is when it comes to a lot of the history, a lot of it wasn't documented very well. So yes, there are people that have made claims that it does go back that far, but nothing that I could personally validate, especially through my research.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't see why not, but I'd have to do more digging to validate that.
You should make a time machine. And then you go back, nice. And then go back. That's what you need to do. A couple other people saying hi. We got Rachel Lynn Brockman. Thanks for watching. Says hi, Ross and Pete. Sonia Jorgensen, friend of the show. Hi, guys. Great to see you both. Thanks for watching, Sonia. And Jason Taylor, I wanted to say thank you for your answers on the ITC, and that he did agree with you. And then Stephen Thomas, hi, welcome. Thanks for watching the show. And real quick, because I want to get into the documentary here, my sister Melissa is asking, can you get a valid or good EVP outside? For example, Superstition Mountains, there's so much background noise from cars driving by. How can you differentiate?
And that's the biggest problem. That is a challenge in our field. That's why when we do investigations, you want to have a controlled environment, and that is best indoors.
Right.
It is a challenge to investigate outdoors because you do have to deal with the elements. And so, that's just it's a tough one. It really is. The best thing you probably could do is if you're trying for EVPs, maybe have a camera person focused on the subject that's holding the recorder and doing the EVPs, so that if you play your recording back, now you can get the EVP on video as well, but if you are playing your recorder back and you think you have an EVP, at least you have some video documenting everything that's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, still, it could be, an animal running in the bushes that you can't control. But
Right.
if you think you have something, you can at least show, there was no cars going by, there was nobody around me making that noise.
Yeah.
So that could help to build some credibility to that possible recording.
Yeah. And we talk a lot on this show about trying to get corroborative evidence from multiple pieces of equipment,
Mm-hmm.
just to help, substantiate the claim. Well, let's get into the parasense, the naked experiments, because this is just fascinating. Um, and by the way, go check this out at touchedbyaghost.com. And I'll post that in the comments post show, so everybody can go check that out. But set it up a little bit. I mean, what are the naked experiments, and kind of how did you come up with that?
Well, throughout my years of investigating the paranormal, being touched by a ghost in a positive or even a negative way has been reported, for the longest time.
Hmm.
And, for me personally, when you get those cases where somebody says they've been touched by a ghost, it's one of those things that you just have to take their word for it. But what happened was I ended up having a case where a young man had reached out to me because while he was working in a brothel, he was actually it was an abandoned brothel. He was up in the abandoned part, and he was working with some sheetrock and stuff, moving some stuff around, and he was alone up there. And as he was just his mother went down to go grab, I think, a tape measure or something like that, and so he was just standing up there by himself, and all of a sudden he felt something grope him.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and so he tells me this story, and again, this is not the first time I've heard something like this, but it just got me thinking. It's just like, God, just another one of these stories, and what can you do? How can you prove that? You just have to take their word for it
Right.
because it is such a personal thing.
Right.
And that's what just really got me thinking. It's just like, can you prove this? And I just started, going over my head. Well, how would you prove it? And to be honest with you, you would need a naked subject, because even for my personal encounters where I felt I was touched, I always second guess myself. Was it my shirt? Was it my jacket, adjusting? So
Right.
you have a lot of contamination there. And so for me, it just made sense. It's just like, okay, if I'm going to try and prove touch, I'm going to have people willing to be naked in a room where physical phenomena happens.
Yeah.
And so I just took it from there. I was like, okay. And luckily I had people willing to do it because they understood it made sense. If you're going to try and prove this phenomena,
Yeah.
everything, you had to have all your ducks in a line. And that was one of them. And then I just set up experiments around these subjects to see if there were other things that would trigger when they had these encounters.
Okay.
And to my surprise, things were happening. And so it was still very limited, though. Not enough for me to, say that, yes, this is pure evidence. I can't, no one can argue with me on this.
Right.
I needed more. And so I was luckily enough, I had met Chad. He was doing a science radio show, and he had me on as a guest to talk about the paranormal.
Okay.
And so I knew he was in the science field. I knew he built stuff. So I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to see what he says. So I called him up out of the blue. I said, I've been working on this research, and I just want to know, how would you prove touch? And that was the key question, and I even, ask your audience, if you were given this challenge, how would you prove touch? How would you do this?
Right.
And that's one of the things that he was just like, you know what, that is very fascinating. And he was intrigued. And luckily enough, he was open-minded enough to go on one of my little adventures, and he witnessed it. And he was like, wow, there's something to this.
Yeah.
So we went to the drawing board. We pulled out my Spectre system. He basically took all the elements that he knew was working, and he advanced it all. And we put it back out there, and the results were just phenomenal.
Awesome. Well, let's see. The trailer's great. It really sets up what you guys were doing and how you were doing it. So let's see the trailer for Parasense, The Naked Experiments.
Come in this room. Come touch me.
Touch, one of the five senses we can't live without. It helps guide us through our lives. Touch gives us warmth and comfort, as well as pain and suffering. But what about those stories of people getting touched by ghosts and spirits? People getting scratched and molested by something unseen? How is this happening? Is it real or fabricated? And if it is real,
Are you trying to touch me?
what could it mean?
Even though science has yet been able to prove or disprove these strange encounters, through the years of patterns and consistency, shows us the phenomenon is true.
I think you're on the right path. I think you're at kind of a precipice where you can clearly show that humans have an experience that has an objective piece to it, which at the very least should get other scientists interested in looking at that question.
My whole research process is trying to bring in a more scientific basis. People need to understand that this is not just your bells and whistles that you see on ghost hunting shows. This is real science.
I'm going to really do my best to try to find information and data that suggests that this is a real thing that we're looking for.
It was here in D Block that changed everything for me and for Nick.
I'm ready for it to be over.
Hey, you in the corner here touches people. You around here? My neck. Really? Scratch me? Oh, I'm red.
At the exact time that I was scratched, looking at the larger data set, you can see anomalies in the PIR and ultrasonic sensors. We can use that data to then create an animation showing what happened in approximate real time. So it looks like whatever it was moved toward me and then away very quickly.
When dealing with the paranormal, you have to be prepared for just about anything when the spirits are truly the ones in charge. The question is, how does the body perceive these experiences? What are the cause and effects of when this happens? And most of all, how do you prove these intimate encounters? For the first time in history, our journey into this untapped realm has only just begun.
Awesome. I can't wait to see it. It's the approach you guys are taking is just so cool. Talk a little bit about how important it was to involve science and the scientific method, and what kind of drove you guys to set things up the way you did.
Well, I think it's always been my goal to, and I've always been more, scientific in my approach to the paranormal. I want to build more credibility to this field, and it is a challenge because we're still very limited in the resources that we have available to try and prove the paranormal. And as we got into updating the spectral system, as you can see, we advanced that. In fact, we are the first to track the phenomena. We can actually see when these energies shift in the room, where they come from and where they go.
Right.
That was one of the biggest things that we experienced.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, so that was another big thing for us. It's always been, as I said, a challenge to prove the paranormal. And I think it's really going to, and I hate to say it, because even Lloyd had said it, it's surprising that it's taken us this long to get this far when we presented everything that we had done with our research. And I said, yeah, it is surprising because there's millions of dollars going into the paranormal, but it's going into the entertainment elements of the paranormal, not the research.
Right.
And I hate to use this as an example, but if you look at, these television shows, some of these shows have been on for over 10 years. Nothing's really changed. And we're
Sure.
going on almost 20 years of these, ghost hunting shows, and it's all the same stuff over and over again. I've always said it's nothing but the blind leading the blind. Monkey see, monkey do. And if you've got the wrong people leading us in this field, because most people are dependent on what they learn from the television shows, we're not going to advance ourselves. We're not going to get anywhere. And so, is it going to take people like me to hopefully get out there and publish our research? Because we need to publish it. I know there's other people that are like-minded as me that are probably doing some amazing things, but if they're not publishing it, they're not helping us at all.
Right.
We really got to get out there and get that information out to the public to see there is something out there. We're not crazy. There's stuff happening. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's ghosts because we still don't have enough information. But there is some intelligent entity or energy out there that is communicating with the living, that's interacting with the environment. So we just have to continue down the track that, like that I've started. And hopefully, as me and Chad continue, we have more ideas and more equipment that we're putting together and
Right.
getting it out there, that we can break the mold that has been set, from the television shows, and say, wait a minute, you guys, I understand you enjoy the entertainment value of ghost hunting, but here's the real research. Here's the real data.
Right.
This is what we need,
Exactly. And if you can get some of those dollars to shift towards the research instead of the entertainment, imagine where we could be.
Exactly.
We got lots of comments here I want to touch on real quick. Adam, he says he works at the theater in Seaside and is very much looking forward to seeing it. It's a great trailer.
Awesome.
Jason Taylor also commenting, crazy good, looking forward to it. Rachel Lynn Brockman looks so interesting. Can't wait to see this. And Kristen Gray commenting, we want the research, not the hype. I'm
There you
guessing
go.
how that
Yep.
she meant that to be said. So we'll talk a little bit about, so you're talking about publishing research and stuff. Talk about the importance of bringing Lloyd Arbach into the process and having him be there and experience what you guys are doing. Talk a little bit about the importance of having someone like him there with you guys.
Well, one of the things that people tend to forget is there's a lot of people that have been doing this way before the television shows, that have a lot more history and credibility behind them in their research. Lloyd being one of them. I had the pleasure of actually living in the Bay Area and going to a few of his lectures and a few of his events that he had put together. And this is I think it was in the 90s when I was doing this. So again, before all the television shows. And so for me, it was important to share my research, because if anything, Lloyd is very well connected in the field, and he would direct me in any way that would help advance what we're doing. And then, of course, for the credibility reasons, we actually had him. We had set up an investigation in the area, and he, joined us as a guest investigator, watching how we actually did an experiment and watching and seeing how the Spectre system worked. And, to have him validate our research and say, guys, you are doing something huge for the paranormal field. It just it blew my mind. I was just like, to have somebody that I so much respect to say, awesome job, Ross, and Chad, you guys are doing something amazing. That was pretty big for us. And then plus two, it also helps that, as we, and I'm surprised that I did so much research when I came up, with these ideas to do these experiments to try and prove touch, that I couldn't find any history of anybody trying to prove touch, and I got a huge, massive library. I probably have over, 600 books on the paranormal, and a lot of them are historic books and everything, and watching old, documentaries and everything on ghosts. And I couldn't find anybody that published any research on trying to prove touch. And when I brought that up to Lloyd, he's like, yeah, no one's done it. You're the first to give us, you are the first to give us this data that no one's had.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, And so, something like that was, pretty mind blowing as well, because I wanted some inspiration. I wanted to learn from somebody else that had been doing it for me.
Sure.
And that's what it's all about. We go to our history and we learn from those ahead of us that have done things and say, okay, here's what they did. Can we make it better? Can we validate this? And that's where I found I was the one paving the road for it, And I'm just like, wow, this is, it's great, but it makes it even more challenging because I don't have anything to go off of.
Yeah, that's so much more challenging when you have nothing to reference of. You're like, am I just going, bat crap crazy here, doing it this way? Am I, great point there. Now that you're publishing this, you and I talked before the show a little bit about making sure that your work isn't stolen, that your research isn't stolen. Was Lloyd kind of part of the, having him be there and witness and everything? I mean, does that help kind of cement, the research that you guys are doing? And
it does, and this goes out to anybody, doing the research in this field. Before you publish it, definitely get as many people that you trust behind you, especially people that have history in this field. Because then when it comes to the point where, and it is a situation where, because of all these television shows, people have been known to steal other people's research to help, lift themselves up in the field. And it sucks. It really does. And so because they have a greater audience than somebody like me, who's just doing this all on my own.
Right.
So you really do have to get that information out there, get people that are very credible in this field, that have history in this field, to see what you're doing. And then when it comes to the point where you are ready to publish it, they have your back.
Right.
So that was really important for me. I had to make sure everything was in line. The research papers are there, where the systems patent, we're doing all that stuff to protect ourselves and get it out there. But, still, we all know there's a bunch of assholes out there.
When there's humans involved.
Yes.
Exactly. And well, it made me think of a question about, as you're going through these experiments, one thing you always hear about with touch, someone's got a story, they get scratched. What, and a lot of times, it's like two scratches and it looks like a letter, or something. Why, why is there patterns, or, how do you, and maybe you don't
Well,
know
the
yet, but
thing,
how do you explain a
well,
scratch?
well, the thing is a couple things here to go back, because there's a few questions there you're asking.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So, again, when it comes to evidence or experiences that we have in this field, we always try to make sense of it. But you have to understand that sometimes what they're trying to say to us doesn't always make sense to us, you
Right.
know? Um, so we try to interpret what we're picking up, and you can't always do that.
Hmm.
It's like I said, you may get a scratch and it may look like a letter, but maybe that was not its purpose at all. Maybe it's not supposed to be a letter. Maybe there's no pattern whatsoever to it. It's one of those things that you can't always assume. I've always said you have to go with what you know and not with what you think you know.
Okay.
And in a lot of cases, when it comes to the paranormal, we are basing our ideas off of other theories and ideas that have been told to us. But again, they're just theories and ideas. There's nothing to validate them. There's not enough research to prove them.
Hmm.
So you have to strip it down to the basics. You have to, just go with what you know. Well, I
Yeah.
know this person got a scratch. That's about it. You have to,
Right.
and that's what you have to go of. That's the root to your research, right? The
Right. Right.
scratch. Well, how did that scratch happen? Then you have to walk yourself through every step. And you have to assume too that when you're dealing with a client that is telling you, I had this experience, that they are being honest enough with their, storytelling.
Right.
Because that's another thing too, and this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, My Haunted Journal, is because people don't seem to understand journaling is so important in this field. Because when people do have experiences, they tend to forget certain details if they don't write it down right away. And then they start to exaggerate the experience. It's not their intent to lie to you. It's just that they had something happen. They want you to believe it happened.
Right.
And so a lot of details and a lot of things get skewed. And so you really don't have the true story.
Hmm.
And so that is another reason why, as I said, journaling is so important, is because you need that true raw information to
Right.
help, with your research. And when you're relying on just stories, you
Hmm.
have to consider the fact that most of the time, those stories are not completely true.
Right. Yeah. Mike Beers was commenting that, the event is just that. Don't
Mhm.
build a story around the event. And,
Exactly.
and yeah, it's so important to write stuff down
Mhm.
as it happens, after it happens, whatever you could do to quickly get it down.
So I hope I
Um,
answered all your questions there. I
you
might have
did, man.
forgotten a few.
You know, you did. And I'm trying not to throw so many at you, but
No, that's all right. That's all
um,
right.
there's just so many things I want to ask. One other thing, well, we're getting low on time here, but one other thing is you often hear claims, the touch was hot or the
Mhm.
touch was cold. In the research you've done so far, is there one type of touch that seems to predominantly be of a hot sensation versus another kind of touch that maybe, people often associate as it was freezing cold?
Mhm. Well, in most cases, people have reported the cold sensation. The only time it's been hot is when there's physical evidence left behind, such as a scratch.
Okay.
So that also could be related to how the body reacts
Hmm.
to harm.
Blood
Yeah,
vessels and
exactly,
capillaries. Yeah.
exactly. So that heat sensation may not be paranormal. It could just be your body responding to being physically harmed.
Right, because when you get cut, it feels hot.
Exactly.
Oftentimes, or like getting a tattoo, it feels hot.
It does. So again, we can't assume.
Yeah.
But there is, and again, if we go to theories and ideas, that when they do have that physical attack, that when it's a release of energy, and energy would be heat.
Yeah.
So, so there may be something to that. But again, we
don't
need
know
more
yet.
data.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm finding I'm the first one to the
Oops. I think we lost Ross there for a second. Well, hopefully we can get him back here. That was weird. Very interesting subject, and there's so many subtopics things to look at in this research. And remember, everybody, go to touchedbyaGhost.com, and you can see the trailer again. And also, Michael Beers, yes, the portal closed. He was getting onto something there, I guess. So let's see if we can get him back in. Oh, he hung up on himself. All right. Well, we'll see if we get him back in. But go to the OregonGhostConference.com if you're going to be going to Seaside March 25th through 27th. Again, Ross's documentary. Oh, there he is.
What happened?
I guess the portal closed, is what Mike Beers said.
Oh no.
But no, go ahead and finish your thought. You were talking about the hot and cold. Anything else you wanted to share?
Well, I was just saying that, again, it's fascinating to me that I just find that I unfortunately am at the front of the line trying to prove and collect that data when it comes to people having those experiences. So I'm always open to people's ideas if they have any ideas out there.
Sure. Yeah, and with be careful what you wish for. Things that this is the naked experiments. Just want to get to a couple more comments.
I'm not asking people to send pictures of their haunted vagina, okay?
There you have it, folks.
Believe me, that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, we're doing real work here, people. Ross is doing the real work. No, I appreciate that you're serious about it. I think I've got nothing but respect for that. And we got a comment from Tim saying, I enjoy listening to you, Ross. You don't just rubber stamp everything as paranormal. Rather, you question things and looking for an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Many people want it so bad, they're quick to say it is. You give it credibility. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And Jason Taylor, great show. Tracy Kennedy, Big River Paranormal, another amazing show. Thank you. Jason Taylor, great information. Yeah, you're Ross, you're full of it. Good information. And your mom says great show. Thank you, Pete and Ross. And Mike, thank you, Ross, for coming on the show. And maybe after this thing gets out and gets rolling and gets some steam going out there, love to have you and some of the crew back.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe see what have you found in the last few months, any updates on some of your research.
Well, I will point out too that this is only the first in the installment. This is actually going to be a docu-series.
Awesome.
Because again, just going out there, I've been doing this for 6 years now.
Yeah, you can't put it all in one thing.
Right. There was so much history. We couldn't, just do it all within an hour or so. But again, there's still we have to learn. Again, as you've asked me these questions, I don't have all the answers. Yeah. We need to continue the research.
Exactly.
Now, we've learned some very important things that will help advance the field, but we still need more data.
Right.
And so we are going to be doing another one very shortly.
Cool. Well, that's great to hear. I look forward to seeing the entire series. Again, go to OregonGhostConference.com. If you want to see the debut of this, and Ross will be there at the Oregon Ghost Conference at the Times Theater, 10:30 p.m. Friday, March 25th. Go get your tickets now. And man, I can't wait to see it. Everyone, a lot of great comments here. I think you're doing some really good work, and
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for doing this. I mean, what a neat thought and line of research, and congratulations on being the pioneer of that.
Yeah.
Who would have thought when you were 10,
I
right?
know. I know.
Great stuff. Well, again, I would appreciate you coming on the show. It was fun to talk to you, and everyone be sure to go to touchedbyaghost.com or go to aghost.org to check out Ross's team and all the activities of Spooked in Seattle, and the tours. You've got a lot going on, so be sure you go spend some time and check it out. And hopefully we'll see you at the Oregon Ghost Conference, there to watch the debut of this. Next week, I've got Paranormal Brew podcast host Taryn Kerper coming on, and I leave every show with a toast as usual. And it's the past is history, the future's a mystery, but today's a gift because it's the present. We all need a little bit of that each day. Try and be present, take stock in what you've got, and hug the people you're around, hug everyone else virtually for a little bit longer, and have a great rest of Valentine's week. And we'll see you next Tuesday here on the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Peter Orbea on WLTK-DB.com. Thanks again, Ross. Have a good one.
Thank you.